Broncos at Saints. Shawn Payton revenge game coming home to a sea of boos. Actually, I don't know. Are they going to cheer him? He won them a Super Bowl.
It
Are they
might
going
be
to?
like a Tom Brady at Gillette Stadium kind of situation where like pregame when Tom came out of the tunnel for the first time, the crowd cheered him and it was like massively like everybody was standing up in their seats and clapping and whatever. And then once the game started and he was the opposition, then they booed him.
See, okay, all right. I could see that being the case. I wonder if like Sean's sort of like retiring and then sort of coming back and forcing his way out. I wonder if that does make it a little bit different. We will see.
Yeah.
But that Sean Payton versus the crowd is not my matchup that matters here. But I am very curious as to hear what your matchup that matters here is for Broncos versus Saints. What do you got?
Yeah, well, it has to do with the other with Sean Payton's offense, in fact, and it has to do with Bo Nix. Because I need to see him get better, specifically on downfield throws. I think we know that Bo Nix, when it's the pass is 0 to 9 yards, you're good. Those are the high completion percentage throws for anybody. And sure enough, he's 61 of 80 on throws like that, but isn't productive out of that, which he has no touchdowns, no interceptions, 89 rating on throws up to 9 yards. When you get to the 10 and over category, that's where things start to get dicey. They get dicey immediately. 23 of 62, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on throws of 10 or more yards for Bo Nix. That is not the way to sustain drives. That is not the way to be productive. That is not the way to get into the end zone when you are throwing more picks than you are touchdowns. I need to see kind of that maturation and the improvement from this Broncos offense that just hasn't been producing in order for them to kind of really complete the cycle. Because I think we've talked about how their defense has been a lot better this season than we a lot of people initially thought. Then you get the game against the Chargers this last week, where I think that the Chargers threw on them a lot more than they anticipated. And now you've got some key injuries in that secondary. I'm worried about this defense being able to contain points even with all of the injuries to New Orleans. So Bo Nix needs to step up.
Yeah, no, I think the Bo Nix is obviously going to be a major talking point in this one. Spencer Rattler also still starting, so it's sort of rookie on rookie here. Spencer got his first start last week, and it was tough, right? I mean, he didn't have the best game, but right out of the gate for you to be down 14-0, I mean, that sucks. You throw your first pass to Chris Olave, it's a fumble, it's picked up on Antoine Winfield Jr. The Bucs had already scored on their first drive, so it's like, oh, okay. My second play, now I'm already down 14-0, and that's really tough in the NFL. So it's just tough for him overall. I think this one will be a little bit more interesting, a little bit more close, but specifically the matchup that matters to me is red zone percentage for both of these teams, because when we talk about their offense overall, and what I wanted to highlight was, I'm not trying to cherry pick here, but the Saints have very clearly been a different offense beyond week 2, because in week 1 they played the Carolina Panthers, looked like world beaters. Week 2 they played the Dallas Cowboys, looked like world beaters. Now we kind of see those defenses aren't exactly great. They're kind of bottom 5 defenses in the NFL in a lot of different categories. So from week 3 on, the New Orleans Saints are just 27th in the NFL in EPA per play. And when you look at the Broncos, they're only one spot higher in that time. They're 26. So these are two of the lower EPA per play, lower efficient offenses in the NFL. However, when it comes to red zone percentage, since week 3, the Broncos are 4th in the NFL. They have an 85% touchdown conversion red zone percentage. So when they get in the red zone, they are scoring touchdowns. The Saints, since week 3, they're 12th in the NFL. So where these offenses aren't great from beginning kick to final kneel down or whatever the final play is, when they get into the red zone, they are pretty efficient here. So I think, in my opinion, the red zone chances, opportunities might be low in total volume number, but whoever capitalizes the most on that is going to mean a lot. And right now, the Broncos are the team that really seem to have things figured out in the red zone. So I lean Broncos in this game simply because if it's two struggling offenses, they're the ones that right now know how to get it done.
Yeah. And I think it's a good call out too, just to say the volume isn't quite there because the overall trips inside the red zone, we haven't been able to see that as much with this Broncos offense, given that they aren't sustaining these drives and even getting into those situations. But when they do, it works. Plus factor, though, is going to go the other side of this. And with all of the injuries, I mean, the Saints are now without Taysom Hill, Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave. They have
Yeah.
multiple injuries along the offensive line. Still don't have Eric McCoy, and I'm going to keep calling that out until they do because it matters. This offense is one singular person, and it's Alvin Kamara. So, how effective can Alvin Kamara be running behind a line that has a ton of injuries with no other threats really on the field? And oh, by the way, a rookie quarterback. This is Alvin Kamara's game. And he's been extraordinarily productive. He looks like the Alvin Kamara that we were so scared of when I worked for the Buccaneers 3-4 years ago. And it was just a complete game wrecker. I mean, he has the seventh most rushing yards on top of having 238 receiving yards. He's got a league leading 132 touches. You literally cannot run him more than you already are, but you're going to have to in this game if the Saints want to put points on the board because you just, with the injuries and how bad this Saints team has been bitten by the injury bug, he's basically your only hope at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I wrote down as my plus factor, it has to be Alvin Kamara in this game. And really, I think the team that runs the ball better is going to feel a lot better about their chances to win the game because the Broncos, they also have really struggled to run the ball over the last couple of weeks. Javonte Williams has been a disappointment for them. And when Alvin Kamara can get it going, it's a very well-balanced Saints attack. So no, you mentioned no Chris Olave, no Rashid Shaheed. You've got to be able to lean on Kamara. And that's really unfair because I feel like the Broncos, their defensive line, one is really good, and you're going up against a hurt Saints interior offensive line. So it's hard to expect a lot of production from Alvin Kamara in this game. But I think the label of him being the plus factor is appropriate because if he can overcome what has been a struggling, beat up offensive line for the New Orleans Saints and Denver probably stacking the box against them, then that really swings things, in my opinion, in New Orleans' favor. So I agree with you there. I think that is a plus factor that you have to watch out for and the biggest one that we have in this game. Let's